Good morning, everybody. We're going to be starting in just about a minute while everybody is coming into the room to watch the Zoom. Be sure to get your cup of coffee because this is going to be a great coffee conversation. Okay, here we are. Welcome to another Coffee Conversations from Roofers Coffee Shop. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and I am very excited to have you all here today. This is a really unique and I think fascinating coffee conversation today around one of the most important topics within the roofing industry, safety. And we're going to be very specific about what we're talking about today because it really is going to affect roofing companies across the board, especially those large commercial roofing companies. So there's a lot going on here this morning. I'm very excited to have you all here. So let's get started. First of all, as a reminder, this is being recorded, and we want to make sure that you share this afterwards. This information that we're going to be talking today about equipment operations and mainly mobile elevating work platforms, MUPs, is going to really have an effect, like I said before, across the board. So please share this out. Ask questions as we go. We have the chat box open. Megan Ellsworth is in the background taking questions, and I'll be asking them. We want to get your questions out so that you can get the best information from this panel of experts. So I'd like to introduce our panel of experts, but first, I want to thank National Roofing Partners, who is our sponsor this morning. National Roofing Partners, it's 200 plus roofing contractors across the country who are providing commercial roofing services along with amazing service and maintenance on a national level. I have been involved with National Roofing Partners for a very long time. They are an amazing group of contractors across the country, and several of them, in fact, all of our contractors today who are on this panel are part of National Roofing Partners. So a special thank you to them for sponsoring today. And as we're going through that, I would like to introduce Ben Gromatzky. He is the Partner Relationships Manager for National Roofing Partners. So Ben, maybe you could share just a little bit more about National Roofing Partners and about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Heidi, and thanks for having us today. This is a great group of people. Like you said, NRP is a facility service company. We deal with clients that have whether they're regional or national, they have large portfolios of roofing assets across the country. And we handle their service work, their preventive maintenance. We get into solar, we do assessments for them, whether it's AI, drone technology, or boots on a roof, and then ultimately recovers and re-roofing for them. And we do that by utilizing our network of partners. Like you said, over 200 partners. These guys are tier one, best in class roofing contractors located throughout the country. And these guys, they take care of that for us, and they do a great job for us. And so if I could do a real quick plug for my teammates at NRP, I've only been here for about 5 months, but I got a great team here at NRP. I mean, whether it's these guys in back in service and accounting and our national account managers out there, we all come to work every day, and we embrace our four core values, which are we're client focused, results driven, and we do this with passion and humility. And everybody embraces that every day, and I can't thank them enough. That to us is our secret to success. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. And thank you. Yes, a big shout out to all of our friends who are watching out there. I see them coming in too. So thank you all for being here and for everything you do, and really for bringing this important topic of safety and MUPs to the table for us to talk about today. And so as we look at this, I'd like to introduce Luke Borlee, who is with United Rentals. And Luke is going to be giving us some fascinating, really important information today. But Luke, before we get started, maybe you can introduce yourself and give everybody just a little bit of flavor.
Sure, thank you. And thank you everyone for your time today. to help educate the industry on these changes that we're going to talk about regarding specifically aerial equipment. Again, Luke Borlee. I'm Region Product Development Manager for United Rentals. Basically, what I tell my customers is I'm your easy button to all things safety related. I help with your safety initiatives. We have an online training program as well that you can log on and take hundreds of different courses, whether it's operator equipment training for equipment or like OSHA 10 and 30, confined space, anything like that. We've got it with a free tracking database for all of your training records, including stuff you guys do in-house. So I work with our accounts, national accounts, even our regional, small local accounts based out of Fort Myers, Florida, but I'm prior to COVID pretty much lived out of my pickup truck and hotels covering coast to coast for the US. So appreciate the time on this WebEx. So thank you.
Wow, thank you, Luke. I have to tell you, United Rentals has been a part of my life, I think my whole life, since I used to go with my dad in construction. So great thing. We're really happy to have you here today. So Eric Seuss is with Raincoat Roofing. Eric and I have done some panels before together. Huge wealth of knowledge when it comes to roofing and safety. Eric, can you introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, Eric Seuss, Raincoat Roofing. Grew up in the business. I'm second generation, got a couple boys who probably got the roofing bug and will be around after me. Worked at Clark Roofing for a number of years, now with Raincoat Roofing, run our service division, been an NRP member, founding member, and serve on their board. And yeah, no, we do a lot of stuff with NRP. We do a lot of stuff maintenance wise in Chicago. Full service roofing company. We're been around. I've been around. My dad's been in the business 40 years. I think I'm 25 plus years. It's just one of those things that either in it or you're not, you're out. And we're definitely in it for the long haul.
Great. I'm so excited. During our practices, I've already heard some of this. So I'm really excited to hear, Eric, everything that you and Raincoat Roofing are doing. I also would like to introduce Jamie Wetherington, who is with Springer Peterson out of Florida. Jamie, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, unfortunately, I'm not a roofer, but I was in 20 plus years in heavy manufacturing. So mobile equipment is kind of a specialty. I am a trainer for mobile equipment. I thank you for the invite today. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. And let's get the questions going so we can teach some people.
I love it. I love it. And we have just a shout out. Diana King is on. So Jamie, watch out. She's watching right now. So Diana, I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you.
Gotta comb my eyebrows.
I know. So again, we're going to go through just a little bit. Luke is going to take us through the changes, what's going on here, but please ask questions, chat, throw out whatever you want. You know how this is. It's a Q&A and we want everyone to feel to engage. But so let's find out a little bit more about mobile elevating work platforms, the certification. What the heck is going on, Luke? We're looking, educate us a little bit.
Sure. So ANSI changed their overall regs. You can see on the bottom, the old regs, the 92.3, 92.5, 2.6, and 2.8 are no more. They consolidated everything, rewrote it, and it's all in the three bullets up top there. The 92.20 covering design changes, which we're going to talk about those in a minute. You're going to see these on the job sites. I mean, you probably have seen them already now as you're renting equipment or buying equipment. 92.22 covers the safe use of, like how you said earlier, MUPs, right? Mobile elevated work platforms. And the big reason they changed the name is to really bring them all together under one roof. So prior to this change, right, you had boom lifts were considered aerial equipment, but scissor lifts kind of floated out. Are they aerial equipment or are they mobile scaffolding, right? So they kind of fell in two different regs. Well, this new reg, calling them all MUPs now, again, mobile elevated work platforms, brings them all together under these three regulations. And then the bottom one there, the 92.24 covers the new training requirements for the use, operation, inspection, and the testing of the maintenance of the MUPs.
So when you're really talking about these new regulations and MUPs overall, let's kind of back up just a little bit. You mentioned what incorporates MUPEs. But maybe talk to us a little bit from which platforms or which equipment, is it everything, or kind of explain that just a little bit more.
So yeah, so they changed, they put what the industry would know as scissor lifts, one-man lifts, right? Where you have to manually push them around. They broke them into different groups and types. So group A are platforms that move vertically, but do not move, or they stay inside their tipping lane. So basically they don't extend out like a boom lift. They can't reach out at all. They just go vertical, up and down. And then group B, those are your boom lifts or your bucket trucks. These are the ones that go up and down, but then also the center of gravity can rotate left, right, in and out, right? Because those are the ones that extend and retract. So they divided them, I guess, basically scissors and booms, commonly known, but they really did categorize, break them down as far as the vertical or horizontal reaches.
And these new regulations, and I'm going to go to this next, really, they're new. We have an old and we have new. Kind of explain for the contractors out there, whether they own their own equipment or they're renting or they're buying new. How is this all affecting?
This one, what you see up here on this slide, this is the biggest change to how the MUPEs are getting made now. Actually, I'm going to step back. Everything that's been rolling off the assembly line since June of 2020 is made to this new standard, this new reg. So if you look at the old decal on the left, this is for a standard scissor lift, let's say a 3219. It's the most heavily rented piece of equipment in our fleet is a 19-foot scissor lift. And you can see on the left, you could have two people, their tools or materials in that basket with a maximum weight capacity of 550 pounds. If you take that scissor lift outside, obviously you've got the wind restriction there of 28 miles an hour, okay? Similar, the new sticker, if you look on the right, the new decal, and this is where you have to look at these carefully. This is one for a boom lift, but if you look at the top half of that sticker, you see the arrow pointing inside the house. So if you're using this piece of aerial equipment, and it could be a scissor lift, right? It could have two people plus their equipment, right? You're using it inside the house, maximum weight 500 pounds, right? They're calling these indoor use only. But if you do take that lift outside, now you can see the arrow pointing outside of the house on the bottom half of that screen. Look at that limitation. You can only have one person in that lift, same weight restriction, right? And then they have the wind rating of 28 miles an hour. Big difference there. And you have to know the difference as you're stepping into that lift, because it's going to take a decade before somebody like United Rentals or any of our competition to really cycle through their fleet. So, roofers, you guys rent multiple pieces of equipment for one site. You could rent 6 scissor lifts for a site, and you might be, right, as the years come, you might be getting 4 of the old style, 2 of the new style, or vice versa. So it's really important that you guys are paying attention as you're getting on that lift to those different those different operating restrictions. So this is to me, this is the most important change to the aerial equipment as the manufacturers are rolling these off the assembly line.
Yeah, Eric, you've been working with this, you have been in front of it. How is this affecting you?
So when we heard about the change in the regulation, we used to have a handful of our techs on the service side and 1 or 2 guys on the production side, which were certified to work with lifts and be able to, use them. And with this new certification, it was, all parties on the lift needed to be certified and be aware of these things, in the event of emergencies and operations and all that. So we really went through a lot of our lift training and our safety and all that stuff, and had our lift company come. They brought a lift. We recertified everybody. Everybody got trained on it, up, down maneuvers, all that stuff. There's a classroom that went around with it. And then we looked at all of our safety equipment as far as our lanyards and our harnesses was everything up to snuff as far as that went. So it really opened up all kinds of different facets to make sure that we were using the right equipment, as well as when we're using the equipment, to Luke's point of knowing, is it, this old or new equipment and stuff. We have the company come out and tell us, here's the lift that we recommend for this, so that we're not getting into a situation where we're overextending or we're trying to do something that the lift's not meant to do. An old lift might have been able to do something a little bit different than what some of these new ones are with some of the restrictions and the win ratings and stuff like that. So we've really tried to be more cognizant because of the jobs that we do. We've got multiple lifts and cranes and stuff like that. So it's more of a setup. It's more of a training. I've got a couple of guys that are really specialized going up, making sure that everything is safe, that we know where we can get to where we need to get to. And, you know, making sure that they're up to date on their training and stuff. You know, we've got our in-house safety guy who looks at everything, that is responsible for checking on everything. We've also got our outside safety company who does job site audits and looks at everything. So as a whole, we've really expanded what our safety and what our lift and all that stuff is. So it kind of sparked the whole firestorm of real overhauling what we do as a company.
Wow. Jamie, what are you seeing? With your background in safety, you probably are in front of this, but how is it working within Springer Peterson?
We've made some policy changes to include, we bought Cobra carts. We took that second person out of the scissor lift. You know, only 10% of our work really is out of a scissor lift, because our edge metal, we put a guy on the roof, he's tied off to a Cobra cart. He's well within the edge and able to be tied off. So we got one man in the basket. He's able to drive, articulate, he's trained. And just like Eric said, we backed up. It's not just one person in the basket that needs to be trained. We train both. One that's an operator, one that's basket awareness, where to place hands, where not to place hands, where to stand, tools, etc. So we really had to make some policy changes, but it's for the better so that we could speed up production, but we're well within the safety RAMs and safety rights of OSHA standards.
Wow. Ben, what are you seeing from the overall contractor network? I mean, obviously Eric and Jamie are, you know, have been on this. Do you feel like this is well communicated out there to the industry?
You know, I think that the partners that we deal with, I mean, we do a vetting process before we bring a partner on. And we really go through their safety protocol. We've got a sheet that goes through their EMR rate, which is their experience modification rate that comes from their insurance. We look at any kind of issues that they've had with their insurance. And then we go through a checklist of their training regimen, what they've been through in terms of training, what they're allowed to use, what type of equipment. And for the most part, the guys that we deal with are all pretty knowledgeable. They've got in-house safety people that and safety programs that we really look for. And so I think for the most part, they're on top of it. I would say that there's probably a lot of people out there that aren't, though. And that's kind of why we're here today, I guess, to communicate that.
Yeah. What I know, Eric, you were going to look into it, but what kind of fines are, I mean, what is OSHA, where is OSHA, and what kind of fines are you seeing with these new certifications and new regulations?
Well, Luke, I think, looked that up and was talking about that this morning, and it was,
good.
You know, what, 14,000 or something like that for the violations. And
yeah, the serious, other than serious posting requirements, the minimum 14,500 right now. Significant increase.
Yeah.
That was,
and everybody's getting back out again.
Yeah, that was as of January 13th.
January 13th. Well, so as you're looking through this, maybe Luke, you can talk just a little bit more about the wind requirements, the wind forces, the rail heights, the markings, some of the regulations that are going along with this to help people.
So the wind forces, the what you see there, the stickers there, that makes sense. We kind of covered that, but other changes you're going to see, especially on scissor lifts, as you're entering, the chain, that's not going to be there anymore. It has to be a solid bar with a toe board, right? Also, the weight restriction when you're elevating. The old units, you could overload them, right, a little bit, but now these new ones, they will disable the elevating function if it's overloaded. So yes, you might have your people, your materials in the lift as you go up, and let's say you're changing a part. Now, once you add that, once you take that old part off, right, you add the weight. If you're overweight, you will not be able to go up. You can only come straight down. So it's a big change to, again, how they're coming off the assembly line. But on this next slide, the next biggest change is the training requirements. I want to talk about number one, that operator training. If you're familiar with the forklift reg, they kind of mirrored that forklift reg. They're requiring a classroom, or online theory portion with a written test, and then a hands-on evaluation as well. So it's just like getting your driver's license. And you have to keep that paperwork. You have to keep those records for a minimum of 4 years, right? Prior to that, it was, yeah, you had to have training on it, but it could have been, okay, Billy Bob, you're our senior guy, you train the new kid, right? Now you actually have to have this, like I said, a classroom training. The second one they're calling occupant knowledge, and this is what Jamie alluded to as well, right? He called it basket awareness, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not a documented training, but this is for the guy riding shotgun. If he's not the primary operator, right? I use the example in the Air Force, we have overhead cranes, right, for inspecting, and it has to get inspected annually by the manufacturer. So they come in, we bring them in the hangar, bring them in the lift, somebody brings them up to do the inspection. He's not that inspector is not an operator, but there has to be, like it says here, and this is directly from the reg, the occupants have to have a basic level of knowledge to work safely in the MUP. It's the trained operator's responsibility to transfer that knowledge to the occupant. It's very vague, but it comes down to like, okay, this is where the operator's manual is, right? It's in this pouch. This is the emergency stop button. Don't stand on the guardrails, proper hookup, simple things like that. I would always highly recommend it. What to Eric's point earlier, just get both guys trained, right, as operators. But if not, at a minimum, there has to be that occupant knowledge. And then the third piece of requirement, and this is brand new, was not a training requirement prior, is the supervisor training. So like it says here, again, this is word for word from the reg. Users shall ensure personnel that directly supervise MUP operators are trained on the proper selection of MUP, the rules and regulations, potential hazards, as within the use of the MUPs, and knowledge of the manufacturer's operator's manual. Really what it is, it's kind of this coffee talk, but on steroids, right? You're actually going to get a certification when you do a supervisor training course. You get that certification that informs you of the changes, makes you aware of them, and how to properly select which lift you're going to need, or how many lifts you're going to need to do a certain job, right? Like Eric was talking about before, having guys come spec out a job. This is, I guess, step one. And the reason, I think really the reason they put this third bullet in there is to help drive the education to the industry, right? Help inform, right? You make the supervisors have to go through this course, which informs them of the reg changes and the differences, in the requirements. That's going to filter down to the actual labor, the guy, the guy on the equipment. So I think that it's two parts there, right? The fourth piece is, again, it's in red. All operators must be trained to the new standard. So unless your guys were trained, with via step one there, right, with a theory online written test post June of 2020, where you have those records, if they were trained prior to that, they have to get trained to the new standard, because how else are they going to know? And this is why OSHA put this, or ANSI put this requirement in there, is how else are your operators going to know about these changes to this equipment? They're going to get on, they're going to operate it incorrectly, and right, could cause an accident, right? So and it can be just a simple refresher training, but you have to have something that meets the reg requirement in that number one up there, doing that classroom written test with a documented hands-on evaluation. So I know that was a lot drinking from the fire hose here, but yeah.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. If you have any questions out there or any clarifications, please type them in the chat. We want to hear them. In fact, we did just have one come in. Let's grab that right here. From Doug Keller. Thank you, Doug. Are the standards and requirements changes the same for all areas, California specifically? We always seem to have different rules and have federal OSHA to deal with, as well as Cal OSHA, and They do not always agree with each other, and there are differences in their requirements.
So yes, this is for all of North America, right? Canada adopted these changes in their own reg standards years ago. The U.S. finally, again, these went into effect June of 2020. California might have more stringent requirements. Maybe I'd have to look, but yeah, Cal OSHA is a big one. But as far as the baseline, again, doesn't matter where, if you're buying equipment, you're buying this new equipment, right? So you have to be trained and knowledgeable on these new standards. Yes, it's state, doesn't matter. It's nationwide.
Hey, Luke, you and I were talking about this the other day. So the regulation was written here in December 2018, correct?
Yes.
And then it was going into effect December 2019. What again was the delay to June of 2020 before the implementation?
Right. So in the reg, there was one little paragraph, one little spot that said only manufacturer approved attachments can be used, right? So an appeal was filed then by these, third-party manufacturers of attachments for aerial equipment. And they're like, hey, by this verbiage, you're cutting us out completely. So that one little snippet had to be changed, which pushed it, delayed it 6 months, hence the June 2020 release date.
What, Eric, what do you see? I mean, from your employees who have been trained and on the new equipment, can you talk just a little bit more about that and how all of this has affected your employees?
So it's more, like Luke said, it's more of the knowledge. Everybody, whoever's on the equipment, knowing what we're doing on it. I mean, even part of our onboarding with our safety and stuff like that, making sure that, all the harnesses are checking to see if anybody has that certification, similar to CERTA and those different certifications that, our insurance requires. We're making sure that stuff is present. When we hire new guys, it might not be that they go through a course right away or we get them certified right away, but it might be, once a year, every 6 months, we'll have all those other people get up to date and make sure that we know that everybody is on par with it. But it was, the requirements, we supply all the equipment. So it's making sure that we have the proper harnesses that are, in restraints and also fall protection, and making sure that the lanyards that we're using, part of what I remember is some of the hookups and the lanyards we were using didn't have the right clamps and the right extensions and stuff like that. So we had to switch out for the lifts for some of the lanyards that we were using. And part of what we do, like Luke was saying, is difficult because we do a lot of church work. So the guys are adding weight and taking weight out of those baskets. So there was really a training curve and an adjustment that some of those guys had to make. We can't load the basket up with 100 things, because by the time we get where we need to go and then add what we're taking out of there, we had to change how we were doing the jobs and stuff like that on these churches. Or the guy might get out of the basket and then something would beep because all of a sudden there was a big dynamic weight change. So they had to think about it a little bit differently on how they were doing some of the work and stuff like that. So we've really got a specialized thing working on the churches that we work on and the insurance companies that we work with and stuff like that in Chicago. There's a lot of unique copper work and stuff like that. So it was unique the way we did it. And like I said, we've got our captive insurance that has their annual safety meetings that our safety director goes to, and he brings back things on what we need to be able to, adapt to and do. I know that the forklift training is something that we're really, making sure everybody's staying on top of. I mean, they haven't written those specifications yet, but that'll be another one that we have to look at as far as what that needs to be. And our outside company, Sheffield, I mean, they do, there's regular audits. They come out to our job sites, just like OSHA, and write us up just like OSHA. So if they don't like what they see, the guys they get written up. And sometimes it's just hey, you know what, it's a corrective measure while they're on site. This isn't right. And sometimes it's hey, you know what, you messed up, and it goes into their personnel file. And if you get too many of those, well, then there might be a termination. So, we look at a lot of that stuff as very, very serious. I mean, there's no excuse for safety violations, and, I think that everybody kind of looks at it as safety is not an expense, it's an investment. Because if everybody is safe and everybody returns safe, the company is always happier and more profitable.
Yeah.
You know what, Eric, I was just reading the other day too, that companies that invest in safety for their safety and training for their employees, they have a better hiring rate and a better employee retention rate as well. Because at the end of the day, employees want to come to work for somebody that cares about their safety. And as an employer, nobody wants to end up on a Bruno Batista Ocean Nightmare video somewhere. So,
Well, Alana, we have, and this is a great question from Kathy DiMatteo. Hopefully I said your last name right. What constitutes documented practical training?
That's a good one. Yeah,
Luke?
there's,
Yep.
you can't, yeah. So you can Google, do a Google search and actually purchase the reg, the entire reg, because they do have sample hands-on evaluation forms right there, right? Nothing, it's not an official form. Don't get me wrong. It's just a sample one, but it gives you an idea. But it has to do with really is obviously a pre-use inspection. Think if you guys operate forklifts, if you have ever done forklift training, think along the same lines. You're going to do a pre-use inspection first, a work site inspection, right? And then do a function test of the equipment. And every time they go up in the lift, are they looking up first, right? That's the number one cause of injury and death on an piece of aerial equipment is hitting an overhead obstruction, right? So first off are they looking up every time before they go up? Before they drive, do they have a clear line of sight on where they're repositioning the lift? Do they know how to safely lower it, right? Emergency lowering system, stuff like that. So it's really in as safe and as environment as you can provide them. Kind of, okay, drive it over here, go up and down, drive it over there, go up and down, bring it back around here, right? Do your function checks. It's something, it's along those lines. There's no official form, unfortunately. There's no official documentation for it that's provided, but they give you kind of guidance in the back of the reg.
Jamie, as a safety manager, how have you handled that?
I was fixing to comment to Luke about that. I built my own form, and I'll tell you something very important for me is I want my guys to be able to identify damages that are deemable to take a piece of equipment out of service. There's a lot of questions of, can I still use it with this damaged, or can we use it with this damaged? So I even built a checklist for that. I want you to walk around, do a pre-trip inspection. I want you to look at the area and the environment, but most freely, I want you to understand what Eric is alluding to as well. It doesn't just stop with the forklift or the aerial platform. Let's talk about your PPE. Let's take an overall inspection of everything that's going to be attached. What Eric was talking about was pelican hooks. I guarantee you, the large hooks. You didn't like large hooks, so you went to a smaller regular hook, because 99% of the time when someone exits a basket with a pelican hook, they hook it onto a handrail because they can. It's big enough and designed to, and it's outside of regulations. So we all face another issue. What do we do with employees that come to your company that have someone else's training certificate or card? Hey, I've been trained before. Company XYZ trained me before. This kind of takes the competency level out. Now it's documented through I can agree that you've been trained by another guy, but unfortunately with Springer Peterson, you're going to sit through a 3-hour PowerPoint, talk about it, and then go out and do a practical exam, even though you've had this card.
Wow. So when you have all these documents, these forms, the checklist, everything like that, what is the reaction of your crews and of the throughout that safety? Are you seeing, I know you just said when other people come, but what's the overall on all these changes with new equipment and everything that's going on?
I think we have a mass texting. It's called easy texting here. So weekly, I can send out a mass text to everyone and just little reminders, little snippets. Hey, make sure we're doing this. So if we stay ahead of it, just like Ben was talking about, if you stay ahead of them and make sure that they're educated and understand weekly, and it's just not complacent and laying stagnant, they digest it. But if you just open their mouth and shove it down their throat, absolutely not. That doesn't work in our industry.
You're creating a culture. You really are. You're creating a culture within your organization. And that goes back to Ben's point of that keeps the higher retention for employees and a happier workforce.
Yeah.
That is right.
So Jamie, one of the things, sorry, another question, because Eric had talked about this earlier, but as a safety director or manager, you have to stay in front of all of this that is coming down the road, whether it's MUPs today, forklifts tomorrow, whatever it may be. Where are you getting all your information, and how do you stay in front of it?
Google. And I'm in a safety committee with safety professionals here locally too, that we bounce questions off of one another weekly. But I'm in a small little network of safety professionals that we really work together on. And I'm the only roofing guy, believe it or not. But, you know, just like in workforce, just like the safety culture, if you live this and your ultimate goal is to keep your people safe, you're going to do everything you can to educate yourself to make sure you stay within the standards. So networking, it works.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're part of multiple peer groups. You know, NRP is almost a peer group in itself. We're in a couple of different, you know, opportunities with peer groups, and you know, it's exactly it. It's networking. But you know, we have a weekly safety meeting that we have with our service department, and then we have rooftop talks with our production crews because a lot don't come to the shop, and that's all documented to the stuff. I mean, there's sign-in sheets and there's weekly topics and the stuff that we learn. If there was a violation or something that happened that somebody got wrote up for, you know, we talk about that. So everybody knows what's going on, and it's an open type environment. So it's not calling out the bad things. It's saying, hey, you know, be aware of this, take a look at this type stuff. And the same thing with the onboarding. Onboarding is super important. You know, even though a guy might have something, you know, there's a 1-day onboarding that we have that sits down with our safety director and goes through all power tools and everything that has to do with safety before they can even get on the roof. So it's important.
I like the no name, no blame, Eric. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like it. Eric, one of the things you had talked about earlier too was that you do work on a lot of churches, and you work with the Diocese of Chicago and with insurance. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because we always think it's all about OSHA, but we know it's all about keeping everyone safe. But then there's other requirements out there also.
Yeah, it's, you know what, there's a lot of things that we do with the Archdiocese, the churches in Chicago. I think there's 236 parishes in the Archdiocese. And we work with the churches directly, and then the insurance company. And nothing is normal on any of those buildings because they're 100-year-old buildings with copper that's blowing off, very ornate metal details that we may or may not have to save. Some of them are historical, so we have to take those pieces down and try and remake them in a sheet metal shop, or we're just ripping them off the building and patching them. So depending on what the situation is, these guys are having to all but punt while they're there of, okay, we got to get out to that or get up to that, you know, with the baskets and with the lifts and the cranes and stuff like that, bring that equipment down safely and lowering it and stuff like that. So there's a lot of unique details that we have to put together with that. You know, we've actually got a training next week, Saturday, where we're going to do some bosun chair training because we're starting to use a bosun chair quite a bit more. And our service manager is having her boyfriend come in who works on the towers. He's a cell tower guy. So we're actually going to set up a bosun chair and throw people over the side of our building and train them how to do proper setup on a bosun chair and stuff like that. So.
Wow. So there's things changing all the time. I mean, it sounds like it. And think about new technology that's coming out. Luke, what are some of the things you're seeing to that point with new technologies and or new regulations that are coming down the pike?
So new technologies, the equipment manufacturers are constantly trying to make safer equipment. They have, I'm just trying to think, there was a first generation SkyGuard is what it was called, which was a bar that floated across the control board, right? So if you accidentally went too high, right, got pinned between the ceiling, it would, your chest would depress down against that bar, and then the machine would stop and then come down a little bit, right? So that way you wouldn't be crushed. The second generation of that, instead of a solid bar, it's a wire cable with 2 magnets on each end. So that way, again, once that magnet is detached, as your chest presses down, once that magnet is detached, again, the machine stops and brings it down. So some simple things like that. Obviously, the ANSI reg change, huge step. And a lot of people say, okay, who is ANSI? Well, the ANSI board is made up of so many people. A lot of them are the manufacturers. They're sitting on these boards creating this. But just an FYI coming up, I know when it comes to roofers, aerial equipment is your number one piece that you're on. Next thing is going to be to reach forklift, right? To get your materials up there. In February, OSHA released a memo that they're gathering the information. They're going to look at the forklift reg, right? We're actually training and safety. So I would expect, again, they're going to review it, run a couple drafts. Once it finally becomes, once the draft is finalized, again, you're going to have that year grace period. But I would expect we're going to see the same thing for forklift in probably 2.5 years that we're seeing, with the aerial equipment. So that's, heads up on what's coming up in the future.
Wow. So Jamie, what have you heard on the forklift and what are you doing to prepare for that?
Same thing. They are making some changes. And unfortunately, we use them every single day, whether it's a 6, 8, 10K, outriggers, etc. I've been doing some research. I've actually started kind of dabbling in building a different PowerPoint, getting in front of our foremen, letting them know that things that they're doing now may not be acceptable. Things that we're seeing now, job site setups may have to be changed. So yeah, we have to stay in front of it. This is how we keep people safe.
Yeah.
We think about the original reg came out in what, 70 or 71, so it's 50
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
And 50 years ago, I don't know, they had these new lifts, these Magni lifts that, it's a reach forklift, but it also rotates, like a boom lift. So they didn't have those 50 years ago. So now you've got this completely new piece of equipment. You have to have some kind of safety practices and standards behind it. So there's a lot going into it.
Yeah, it amazes me with some of the lifts that they're coming out with. I mean, I think we just used one not that long ago. It was like a little spider lift that got into this little courtyard that I want to say it went almost 100 feet or something like that off this little spider lift. It fit through a gangway like this big, and the way that they can level themselves and do whatever in the technologies. But to Jamie's point, it's like the stuff that we were doing and the stuff that we're trying to do, we can't. I mean, we're using drones more, sending drones up to kind of do pre-inspections and stuff like that, that see stuff that we can't see, and submitting different safety plans on every single job that we never used to, because there's so many different things you got to look at today.
Fully automated remote control. I mean, we have remote control skid steers in our fleet. So you've got the operator sitting there on the bed of his truck, and he's moving dirt. So how do you address the safety requirements for that when you technically don't have an operator sitting in the seat? But that's what you're going to see, obviously coming forward here with the forklift reg in a couple of years.
So let's talk just a little bit about, for everybody out there, and if you have any questions, now's the time, bring it on. We want to get those questions out here. But let's talk a little bit about training options. So I know you're doing a lot in-house, but are you doing, Jamie, let's just go through that again, and then I'm going to go Jamie, Eric, and then Luke on what are a good training options for people, other contractors out there to be looking into.
Well, familiarizing yourself with the standard and building something specifically to your company's needs. Like if you build an overall standard PowerPoint, that's fine. But if you could really home it into your company needs, what you do, how you do things for a living, and really can get in front of the employee and relate to your day-to-day activities, that's the best, that's the key. Like you can teach regulations, we understand it. But if you really get in front of them and show them this is the Springer Peterson way, company XYZ's way, that helps them 100%, because the environment is our environment. We choose our environment. Job site setup, pre-inspection, to Eric's comment there. We use drones as well, but we have a large training facility and a large smart board, and we get employees in here. We have an onboarding process. It's I do it every Tuesdays and Thursdays with new employees, and we get in front of them. But I can't stress enough that if you really build it specifically to your company's needs and expectations and cover the regulations, you're spot on.
Do you use outside sources? Do you do it all inside, or do you bring outside sources in?
I do use outside safety consultants. I've done competent fall protection only because I believe in the 4 key behaviors in safety, and one is complacency. So they see my bald head continuously. I want them to relate to someone else. So if I bring an outsider in that might be well-spoken, better to look at than me, they receive it better. They're going to receive it better. A couple of small changes. I mean, our workforce is dwindling down. It's hard to get people. Attendance, attention. So what we do is we make our employees put their cell phones in a box, like no distractions, stuff like that, just key behaviors. So I do use outside people to come in, fall protection, even mobile equipment. And again, that peer group that we've talked about, we bounce things off of one another. I try to get better by watching them. They can get better by watching us.
That's great. Eric, what are you doing?
I think I mentioned before, we're part of a captive insurance group. So I mean, with the captive, they've got multiple meetings to where we've got a safety meeting twice a year that our James, our safety director, goes to. We've got an outside company that does the job site audits. And the one thing I like about their audits is that we don't announce them. So we give them a list at the beginning of the week at the jobs that we're on and where we're going to be in both service and production. And they pick and choose when they're going to go. So, the guys don't know it's coming. It's almost like an OSHA inspection. They just go up on the roof. They know how to get in the building and they go and do their audit. And we get a report back that shows what the violations were. It's something that if it's correctable on site, they correct it on site, bad extension cord or fire extinguisher was too far away or stuff like that. But if it's bigger, then it's something that gets written up and we get notified, and then we can, talk to the foreman, talk to the person. As I said, we do weekly safety meetings on my service side every Wednesday morning at 6:30. The guys come in, we spend about 45 minutes talking about, it might be an issue that happened during the week. It might be an issue that we heard about, whatever it might be. And it's a documented meeting. The guys come in, they get paid for the safety meeting. Everybody has to sign a sheet. The sheet goes into a logbook. So at any given time, somebody could say, show us your safety, your safety meetings or what you're doing. And here's the book of all the different topics and all the different things like that. Same thing on the roof. I mean, they pick a crew and, every week we go to, toolbox talks, if you will, like the NRCA type thing, and, follow through with that kind of stuff. But all of that is only as much as I think Jamie alluded to it is it's got to be part of the culture. Everybody from the top to the bottom has to believe what you're doing and why you're doing it and understand why you're doing it. So that's the one thing that we really try and enforce into the guys is I'm a proponent of when we had new harnesses and whatnot with the new certifications, we had our safety company Sheffield come in with like 3 different style harnesses and said, okay, here's the 3 harnesses you have to pick from. They all fall within, and everybody tried them on to say, okay, this one I like, this one I like. Because if I buy the $79 harness and it doesn't fit right and it's biting in the wrong spots, the guys aren't going to wear it. They're not going to want to use it. So I want them to be comfortable and I want them to be able to say, okay, yeah, I can wear this. It fits. It's good. So little stuff like that, I think, goes a long way.
The culture of the company. I love it. It's culture of safety. And actually, I'm going to go to Ben next because Ben, you've been doing some safety training recently, and I wanted you to kind of share your experience on what you've been doing.
Yeah, so safety has been a big push for us at NRP. We've actually got a warehouse here where we do a lot of solar that we ship out of here, slip sheets and things like that. And we needed some backup here on the forklift. And I've got some experience on a forklift from my days of distribution. And so myself and another associate, Sebastian McMichael, we are enrolled currently with United Rentals in their United Academy. And it's been a great program so far. We did a blended, what's called a blended program. So part of it was online, which is we've already gone through that process and taken the exams, which, by the way, Sebastian knows me lunch because I beat him a little bit on the final exam. So I'm going to hold him to that. But and then early Monday morning, we've got our practical where we've actually got to go and do in-person training. And so, but I can't say enough about United Rentals and their United Academy. It's been fantastic. Everything was well laid out, very informative. And so it's been great for us.
And the fact that you're bringing that to all of your contractors within the network, that opportunity is it's just like all these different areas. It's everywhere. It's just a matter of reaching out and looking for where you can get this kind of support. I do have one question. Sorry, Luke, and then I'm going to come back to you on the training. But we have a question which is much more important. When you're looking at certifications and training, is there specific wording or OSHA or ANSI standard reference you're looking for to verify the correct training?
I would look at 2 things. One is the date of the training, and then 2 is if it says, ANSI, what, 92.24, if I remember, yeah, 92.24. That's that means it was to the new reg requirement, right? If it says 2.6, 2.5, those are the only old regs. Those are, obviously now almost 2 years outdated, but those would be the two things I would look for. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if there's an accident and it goes to litigation, the card isn't going to mean squat. You have to provide that written test and that hands-on evaluation. Those are the two documents you have to show, because then you have proof that at whatever given time and day that you had a competent operator, you had somebody that knew how to operate safely, right? So the card won't, it's nice to have, right? Yeah, I mean, a lot of GCs that'll accept it, but it's, at the end of the day, it's the paperwork that you have to have a record for. And I know it was brought up earlier too, if you hire somebody and, oh, I've got my card, here it is still the employer's responsibility to, at a minimum, do a hands-on evaluation again, in their work environment and what they're doing, because maybe you hired an electrician. Well, that electrician's training, like we said earlier, is going to be kind of customized, tailored to that industry versus being a roofer, right? So and it gives you peace of mind too, that, okay, it wasn't just fly-by-night training. This guy or girl actually knows how to operate a piece of equipment.
And maybe talk a little bit, Luke, continue on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, people are looking to get this and to get the training. You're offering it through United Academy.
Right. So 14 years ago, to keep our company current, we launched United Academy, which is our safety training division within United Rentals, and we offer that those services as well to our customers. It started with one trainer in the Southeast, and now we have over 90 full-time trainers. Our 5-year plan is to double in size. We want to be north of 150 full-time trainers by the within 5 years. And what you see up here advertised on the left, that's for that MUPS for Supervisor course. It's a 100% online course you could take, start, stop at your own pace, but you can take that. I would highly recommend anybody in the safety, with a safety title, safety manager, safety director, EH&S, to take that course. It'll help you understand the reg changes a little more than what we've covered here.
Excellent. Awesome. So what are some, and I know we kind of talked about this a little bit, but just to kind of finalize, we talked about the forklifts. Are there any other things out there coming down safety wise that people watching should be aware
of? Not that I haven't heard anything else really big coming down. I don't know if Jamie or Eric, anything you guys have, or Ben too. Is there anything you're hearing whispers or anything? I mean, the forklift is the biggest one that came out that I've heard.
We're making a big internal push here for informing not only our partners, but our clients about fall protection. That's a big deal that we see, and we're partnering with some companies out there, Key Safety being one of them, that we're working very diligently with about hatch rails and guardrails and skylight protection. Just the other day, I sent an article out internally to our people about a person that fell through a skylight, and the company's getting sued for like $1.2 million, and the person was badly injured. And so we want to avoid that, obviously, with our partners, and especially inform our clients. If you get up on any one of our people gets up on to do an assessment or inspection, we ask them to turn around, take a picture of that hatch. If it doesn't have any kind of protection or railing around it, we need to inform the client immediately and let them know that that's an OSHA violation if that hatch is open. So things like that is what we're looking at.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, we're seeing, even in the last 5 years, the GCs are requiring so much more training documentation. They want that requirement, right? Because for them, it's a shared liability. Even if the subcontractor has the accident, it's still going to fall on the GC at some point, at some part, right? It can. So we're seeing the biggest push, other than the ANSI regs, the biggest push is coming from the GCs. They want to have a safe job site.
Yep.
One thing I'm working on, I don't really have any whispers of going through new changes, but something that I've got an initiative next month is illumination, nighttime work. I want to really work on our illumination. That could very be hazardous. So
yeah,
Absolutely.
Poorly placed light towers are equally as bad as not having enough.
Yeah. Well, that's a big deal too. And I lived out in Phoenix for a long time, and a lot of the times during the summertime, they do a lot of roofing at night because it's so hot during the day. And And so that's a big deal out there as well.
To Luke's point, though, with the documentation, as we work as GCs with our subcontractors, I mean, part of our documentation that we require above and beyond ours is all of our subs have to submit a documented safety plan that they plan on following. If it's a masonry contractor, if it's a sheet metal contractor, whoever we might be subbing out to, they have to tell us how they plan on tying off, how their scaffolding is going to work, and have that part of the documents before they can even perform work. Because as Luke said, it's not just because you're a roofer and putting a roof on, it's everybody's responsible. We've had a couple of incidents to where something may have happened and all of a sudden, your name's on the bid document, your name's on the job, and everybody gets dragged into it. So if we've at least got a plan to say they said they were going to, or this was going to happen type thing, it gives you some leg to stand on. And January here, a couple of weeks ago, the CRCA was in here in Chicago. And that was the number one thing that I think I had heard from most of the lawyers and the safety people is documentation. The more you have, the better you are. You can't have enough. So yeah, we really try and get as much as we can from subs and all of our people to just, if anything happens, it's here. Here's how we do it. Here's what's done. It certainly does help.
Wow.
Not to mention choosing the right subs.
Yeah.
Just like Ben said, vetting us as NRP partners, we do the same thing. We vet our subs. We want to make sure they don't have a 1.9 EMR and they're not just barely getting by. We make sure as well.
Yeah. And one of the things we do with our subs is if a sub is working on one of our projects, there has to be a Raincoat employee present. Otherwise they can't work. So there's always somebody watching that job that has Raincoat's interest, and it's not just saying, all right, well, go do your masonry work or go do whatever you're doing and, let us know when it's done type thing. So
I like that, Eric. That's the first I've heard that. That's good.
Good.
That's good. Well, gentlemen, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, first of all, for this, to both Jamie and Eric, your commitment to safety and willingness to share all of your insights and your wisdom with everyone out there. I think so important. And for Luke and Ben, thank you so much for bringing us this topic, to really get it out there, to talk about it, I think is something that everybody just assumes everybody knows about, but it's not the case. And so we need to continue to share this great information and make sure that it's happening. Thank you all so much for this panel today. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. You're the one that put it together, and we're big fans of Roofers Coffee Shop. We appreciate everything you guys do. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank
Be safe.
you. Very. And I just want to say one last time to National Roofing Partners, thank you so much for being a sponsor of this, for everything you do for the industry, your commitment to giving back, and the quality of the network overall. A great partner, and we're so happy for you sponsoring today. Thank you so much. I also want to make sure that everyone knows 2 weeks from now, we are going to have another coffee conversations, and it's going to be on Women History Month. So we have, I think, a really great panel of women from all different parts of the industry, all different ages, who are just going to be sharing their experiences, and not only the history of women in roofing, but also where's it going? Where are we going? And we've seen so many great things happening around National Women in Roofing and so many different diversity initiatives that I think this will be just amazing. So join us, be sure to join us 2 weeks from now, and for the next coffee conversation, March 24th, 2022 at 7 a.m. Pacific. And as always, this is being recorded. It will be on the site probably within the next 24 hours. Please share it. It's underneath the Read, Listen, Watch initiative. We're always so happy to have all of you on here. And like Ben said, have a great day. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next Coffee Conversations.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.